Okay. Thank you all. Welcome to Kaarvan Crafts Foundation. This is a new live series that I've started for Kaarvan. The idea is to have a conversation around craft, social entrepreneurship, digital literacy, and many more other areas related to development. So today's topic is social entrepreneurship. Shall we dig in to start? Ready?
Start. Ready.
Okay. Yeah. The term social entrepreneurship has been around in Pakistan for a few years now, but there's a lot of confusion as to what it involves. Mrs. Siddiqa, I'd appreciate it if you could just tell us that what does social entrepreneurship mean? It's not the private sector, but it's also not an NGO. What does it involve?
The entrepreneurship? Yeah, we as at Indus Heritage started it about 6 years ago, and
right.
we now are at a point where most of our women are empowered, and we have extensively trained them in a lot of different. Yes. First of all is their heritage embroideries. So we trained them for 3 years. They weren't serious people because they thought they weren't being paid enough. So why should they even bother to do something?
Right, right.
So after the training, they became, very aware of what we called them artisans. We said, you're not factory workers, you're artists. So you are creating something which is very important, which is very, very important. They really didn't believe us till their training was complete and they were empowered to, make designs. So we were their first customers. We are the social enterprise. So we are their first customers, but we have taught them not only embroidery skills, we have taught them how to negotiate, how to write down loss and profit, how to log in how much they've made, their money they've made. So that was the process that we went through. And now we have, we are still linked to them. We have taken their embroideries and their work to North America. 3 times to New York now, and once to Las Vegas, once to Dubai. So we were picked up as the organization that would go to 2020, but unfortunately that didn't happen. Yes. So let's hope it does happen. So we take them there. A social enterprise is also a difficult thing. Sorry, am I taking too much time?
Not at all, Mrs. Siddiqa. Please carry on. Not at all.
Everyone
will get a chance to speak. Don't worry.
You see, the point is that craft is not recognized by the government of Pakistan and its people. The people think craft is nothing. What is this nonsense of craft? And what's so important about it? So this is the reason why we lost the craft. While India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, these countries, Nepal, did not lose that touch of how important handmade goods are. The West has started to recognize handmade goods, but in Pakistan, they're still not recognized. So that is our tough job of how we run this social enterprise. And every time we get a hitch somewhere, but we overcome that. So that is how we did that.
Right. Now, Nuria, you also have a social enterprise, but yours is based in Lahore. And you describe yourself as a non-profit. So for you, what does social entrepreneurship mean?
Well, yes, for us, we call Labor and Love. I always describe it as a social enterprise. And for me, it's a business which, setting up a business which also has a benefit on the community, uplifting society in a way. So in the same way that, what Siddiqa Auntie was just now talking about. So what we did, I just felt that women, for me, it was a case of, I felt that women should be included in the workforce. I felt that so many women, especially of a particular strata, were just expected to stay at home and look after the children, and and actually it was my cook's wife who actually made me, I used to get upset because she just used to, for me, it just seemed that she spent the whole day in her quarter and she didn't go out, she didn't do anything. It was my cook who would take the kids to school. He would go and get the, whatever the soda was. She never ever came out of her room. And I found that very disturbing. As a woman myself, and I'm a mom as well. I believe that there's something beyond just that, and I think that all women, it doesn't matter from which social background they're from or which class they're from. I think we are all we're all people with all different facets, and we all have different wants and needs, and we have talents. And for me, I just felt the easiest thing was, embroidery and that kind of work, because it came so easy to a lot of these women who were from these backgrounds. And for me, I used to go to a lot of these different events to try to support handicraft work. And what happened was, I remember I went to one of these exhibitions, and it was, I had come quite late. So it was like towards the end of the exhibit. And there was a lady there, and she did the most stunning crochet work. But there was nothing that I wanted to buy from her stall, because the colors were such that I didn't know what I would do with any of the items that were there. And she was on the verge of tears because she hadn't sold anything. And it made me very upset. I felt very bad for her. And I said, your work is beautiful. And then I saw some of her designs, and I said, if you change this color, if you did it just like this, but if you change this color and you change that color, this would look amazing. And there was one, she did crochet work. And I remember there was just two pieces, and she'd made them as pillowcases, and they were white crochet with like a red rose between each, like a squares like that put together. Because I felt so bad for her, I bought it from her. And then it sat in my, in my cupboards for like 2 years. And then I was doing labor and love work, and it was coming to winter time. And I thought, why don't we make like hot water bottles with crochet work? And the woman who I was talking to, one of my workers, she wasn't understanding what I was meaning. And I suddenly had this epiphany, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. And I ran and got these, these crochet pillow covers. And I said, cut them up and let's make them like this. And they sold like in an instant. I think I was able to make I think we made like 6 of them from those 2 bed covers. And they were the first things that sold, and people were happy to pay $1,500 for one of them. So, for me, what I try to do with our women, yes, I teach them. We do the, teaching of the different, we do a lot of sequining work, stitching, all that kind of stuff. But I try very hard for them to get an understanding of like color and like the use of the design. Because what I would do is I would actually draw the design. I would color it in. So I would take, marker pens, whatever, so they knew exactly what shade thread to buy, everything like that. And then what I would find is that they would change it, and they would do their own like color combination on it. And then I was like,
I think that's probably because that's what they knew. They were most comfortable with it.
Yeah. So they were so sweet, because they thought, oh, well, Bibi told us this thing, but we think this color combination. And then that was the hard part, because then I would have to explain to them, like, I said to them, the next time you do this, I am not going to pay you. Because I used to feel so guilty. I would still pay them for the work, but I would tell them, look, I can't sell this, but okay, now you've done it. So then I told them, I said, not only I won't pay you, but you are going to pay me back for the dhaga and the kapra that you have wasted. Right?
Sure.
And then they it. And then they understood. And I said, the aim of this, what we're doing is not just to make you stitch and whatever. We have to sell it. So I think that was a new thing for them to understand, that it's not their taste or and now I find they're so good. They'll come up with these ideas. Like we do, our Christmas ornaments are really beautiful. I mean, I know they're done by us, but I really think rival anything that you'd see in Harvey Nichols or Harrods or any of that. And some of the designs, you know, they come up with now. And it's just a case of just getting your taste buds used to, you know, a particular style or a particular way of working. So then now they're
creating a trickle-down effect. You're creating a trickle-down effect in terms of skills and teaching them entrepreneurship, which is something that, Maria, that you've done, but yours is different. You don't work with craft. You actually taken social entrepreneurship and given it a completely digital twist altogether. I was unaware of the type of work, Maria, that you do with WDL.
Yeah, thank you. So with Women's Dish League, because I was the person who didn't know how to hold a needle, and I used to get into the most trouble in school during the home economics class. So I couldn't, unfortunately, get into the creative industry. And I'm one of your, like the women that work for you, Nuria, would completely wreck the colors and make something horrendous. So I just, mine was more need-based, and it was very personal because, you see, I was working as a teacher at a private school. I have a master's degree in English literature, and unfortunately, that's the best you can do with it. Maybe, 11 years ago, maybe today there are more job opportunities for people with that degree, but back then that's all I could do. And then, I was teaching, and then, 3-4 years of teaching at this place, they fired me when I was expecting my second child because they said, we don't have any maternity policy. So, you have to go and then come back when the child can go to preschool.
Wow.
Yeah, it was because you see, I suffered from severe postpartum depression with the first one, and the doctor said you have to keep yourself busy. And with the second one, I was really banking on this job, and I thought, everything's going to be okay this time. But when that happened, I was just left. I just didn't know what to do. Yeah, because I mean, what are the work opportunities? No school is going to touch me. I went to a girls' college, and I interviewed, and they really liked me, and they made me an offer. But the moment they found out I was pregnant, again they were like, "So sorry, we can't take you." So what options were there for me? And I just stumbled upon online work and this whole freelancing, industry, gig industry, and I started writing articles, and then it made me think of so many women along the way, so many colleagues who were teachers who had to stop working because they got married or they had children, etc. And I said, this is not cool. This is just a natural next step in life. You get married, you have kids. Why should you have to sacrifice? Why can't you have both? Yeah. Why can't you have it all?
Absolutely.
You can. Yeah. So then I went on and advocating for online work, telling people about it. But this was so long ago that, people didn't understand it, and they thought that this was just some sort of a scam, But slowly, gradually, I mean, it was too good to be true. Ghar baithe paise kamaye type thing, Yeah, but gradually, people started approaching me, first from my family, then friends of the family, and then gradually word got out, and then some friends said to me, you need to put a name on it. This is a business. What you're doing is a social enterprise. I remember Laila Charayat Jana, the lady who started Samasource, who just recently passed away. She was the first person to approach me. She approached me through Odesk, which has now become Upwork, and she said, I'm in Pakistan, and I'm, kind of scoping the... Yeah, she said, I'm scoping the area, and I want to see if we can find people who can do freelancing, that we can train in more advanced tasks. Would you be interested? And, that's how I started and really got into it. And she trained me. Samasource, I volunteered for them, and then they trained me. And from there onwards, it became a business and a social enterprise, helping women, find work and find this alternate way of working.
But Maria, your outreach has been in a lot of these northern areas that people sort of excuse by saying, we can't go there because it's too far out. And I find it incredible that digitally you've connected them with you've created like a little network of social entrepreneurs in a region that is often ignored by state and society.
I didn't even go there, Meher, until 3 years ago, and I've been working with them for 8 years now.
Really?
And this was, I didn't. I just found out that there is this, through some friends, I found out that there was this internet cafe in Hunza in Karimabad that was running into loss, and they were thinking of shutting it down. And I went to them, I said, look, you have 100% literacy rate among people 30 and below. Your women are some of the most empowered women I have come across. So why don't we give it a try? Let me see if I can send you some work, and if they can deliver on it, and then we can work with that. And we did that, and that just completely changed the landscape of that area, if I may say so, because they got a grant from the Japanese government, I think, and they were able to make 8 ICT training centers throughout the Gilgit-Baltistan region and train those people in online work. And that infrastructure is still there, and they're still using it. So yeah, I mean, that was all online.
Used an interesting term. You used the term of empowerment. Mrs. Siddiqa, I'd love to get your input on this. When we talk about craft, it's, unfortunately, it's viewed as such a hollow form. Ke bas ye handicraft hai, you put it as an exhibit, and that's it. What people don't realize is that crafts itself creates a cycle of economic empowerment, and it also has the potential to branch out into other areas of advocacy, such as human rights. I mean, has the Indus Heritage Trust been able to create that?
Nuria and Maria's talk made me think that actually our first project was in Islamabad to set up an art and craft center. And it's a whole village that still stands there. The thing is that why we chose, when we started a large project, we had 2 areas that we chose. One was South Punjab, the other one was North Sindh. And we went right up to Tharparkar. The reason we chose this area was that the women had massive, they were so good in their embroideries. But as Nuria said, they had no idea about colors. They had no idea about that the design should be followed. So that's what we trained them in. But coming to your question, yes, the reason why we picked up change their product completely from making a shirt and a dupatta to housewares. We still make a lot of our apparel is also very, very, very popular. We make housewares, and the reason being, anything for the table, anything for the bed, all sorts of cushions. And the reason we changed it was that, like you buy a plate that is ceramic, and that's it. After that, you don't need to buy another ceramic that looks like that. So we changed the whole idea of that it should be used daily. And that is how they will get their empowerment. That if it's a daily product, if people have to buy table mats, they buy 6 or 8, and then they buy more, and they want different color schemes and things. Absolutely. And cushions the same way. The craft is, as I said right in the beginning, that to some extent, governments have to recognize it as a creative enterprise. We've been struggling with that to make them realize that it is it's a whole industry. And if you put it together, you will see how these women, the reason I had said earlier was that they had left their craft was that nobody was paying for it. And the middleman only would pay them 50 rupees for a whole shirt and dupatta. So they stopped working. Their younger generation stopped working in the same beautiful skill that the mothers and the grandmothers had. So we had to revive that whole cycle where we taught them that you're artisans, there is value to your, what you're making. And we paid them extremely well. And that was the reason they came back. And now their younger daughters are also coming back. But Nuria pointed out a very valid point, and she said, they could understand why if this leaf is crooked, we are rejecting it. What's so different about it? And why if a color instead of a red, we are putting a maroon, and what's the difference? So we had to teach
What's
them
the,
all these things. And that's why it
yeah,
took us a long time to bring them to a point where we trained
absolutely.
2,700 women in Sindh
Wow.
and Punjab. And that is, and of course now there are 20, 30,000 families that benefit. But their earning is so good that they became empowered
That's,
in their own families. And the families started to learn, oh my God, what she does is really nice and important. And we should give her more time to do that instead of
yes.
washing the dishes or doing something that is
Yeah.
also that work. But like they thought, oh, embroidery is useless, there's no need to do it. Or so we
Yeah.
have to teach this whole value chain. And the whole value
Absolutely.
chain now has come together to,
Gee.
do all these beautiful things that empowers them a lot. They
Of
didn't have
course.
they didn't have ID cards. We may force them to have ID cards because our
Right.
payment is, uh, Maria would know that much better. Their payment is through MobiCash, and
Right.
we
Right. Right.
directly send it to them, not to their husband or sons or whoever.
Mm-hmm.
So we
Mm-hmm.
directly send it to them. So that is why they thought, oh, we should have an ID card. Then also
Yes.
the telephones, little mobile. We were helped by an organization to give them free telephones, and
Right.
that's smartphones. We also now teach them. Apart from visiting them, I visited every community for the last 5, 6 years. Every community I
Gee.
used to go to and see
Gee.
how much they had progressed. So we have um, now teaching them on iPads and iPhones. So
Wonderful. That's
we send
wonderful.
them a design, and they
Yeah.
copy it for us, and then they send it back, and we, if they are making a mistake, we'll point out. So
Of course.
I hope
Of
this
course.
answers your question.
Yes, absolutely. Maria, this what Mrs. Sadiqa just said, she's talking about the home-based worker. And I know you've been a strong advocate of the home-based worker gaining recognition. And you often quote that the World Bank says that only 1% of the Pakistani workforce is female. And that really, really, upsets me. And I know it upsets you as well. How does one go about changing that?
It's really, it makes me really angry when they say that. Yes, in the formal economy, yes, but in the informal economy, you see women working everywhere. Look at your household staff. Most of it is female,
Yeah,
but they are just not considered important
female.
enough, yeah, to be included in those figures and those stats. I think I don't know how it can be changed. I think in my own small ways I've gone on, to starting my own YouTube channel, and I just get all these women entrepreneurs that nobody has heard of. They are not so vocal, they're working from homes, they are single person
Yeah.
companies, and I just get them on and I talk to them and I just ask them, just so that people can go and see, okay, there are women entrepreneurs in Pakistan, more than the handful of us that are at every panel, because nobody cares enough to go and look for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
And they're also not so out there themselves. That's
Yeah.
the small effort I can make, but I think there's a lot that the government needs to do and give them recognition. And I don't know what the government is doing, especially with programs like the BISP and this SARS program. All of these, we talk about big
Yes.
data. There's so much data out there. BISP is just women centric. What is the government doing with the data except for handing out cash? Why don't they look
Yeah.
at patterns? Why don't they find out what are the real
Yes.
challenges these women are facing? Instead
Yeah.
of giving them 2-3 हजार a month, teach them to fish, as we like to say. Change the entire fishing industry, as the Ashoka people say. Change it, not just
Yeah.
teach them to fish. Change the
Absolutely.
entire industry, but give them that dignity and that recognition that they deserve. And that's where the government needs to step in. We are the pressure group pushing them, but the government needs to do
Yes.
something
Yes.
here.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Can I
Yeah. You
just
mentioned
elaborate 1 second on what Maria has just said? I've had
Gigi.
such an uphill task talking to BISP all the time. And they and the World Bank just
Yeah.
doesn't agree with it. I said, look, guys, don't give them money, because They go, like we have certain microfinance programs, but they take money and they will go and buy a joda for themselves or their daughters, or something.
Yes.
And the purpose is lost. So, but BISP is another story. Uh, so is SAS. But we are trying. We are trying very hard.
Absolutely. Maria, you mentioned changing the industry. Nuria, I love how with Labor and Love, what you've done is you've taken traditional craft and you've innovated with it. For example, with crochet, generally speaking, crochet is used on clothing or on house decor, in a very traditional manner. You've sort of taken those crafts and you've really given them a more modern, fresh look that has a strong appeal with the younger generation. Do you feel that more innovation needs to take place in craft? Generally speaking?
When I started up Labor and Love, because I just thought that women are so good at, and by the way, Maria, I can't stitch myself at all. Okay, so I'm like the worst person. I can't do any stitching. Okay, I can give orders, but that's it. But no, for me, I thought, okay, if I was going to start something like this, there was already so much craft in the market. So if I was to do the same thing, why would anybody buy it from the women that I'm using? So instead, what I thought was, use what I know. And I was brought up, in the West, and I have a very different eye, I guess, to what the local eye is. And I just thought there was so much, fun items that you could make, which are not in the market. So the idea behind Labor and Love was always to create unique contemporary items which use handicraft, and so that the idea is that you buy it because it's something that you can't find anywhere else. Not that you buy it because it's charity, that you're helping women. That's just like a byproduct of what we do. I don't want people just to buy it because they say, oh yeah, I'll help women like that. That's not the idea behind it. I want them to see something and say, oh, this is really cool. Oh, I love this. And I try very hard I'm always thinking about different things, household objects, whatever I see. And I always think, like, how could I put craft into it? Like, you can take the same, but put a little bit of craft in it. It doesn't have to be a lot, but just a little bit. So you're giving something its own little, a little unique, thing. And for us, we do a lot of personalized things, a lot of bespoke things, which I think is nice for customers, that you can, if you want to make something your own, if you like our design, we can even tweak it, for you in particular. For example, right now we're doing all these Father's Day cushions. And then lots of people are like, I love this, but could you switch it? Can I, instead of saying Papa Bear's chair, can you do Baba's chair or something like that? So I'm like, yeah, sure, we'll do it that way. So for me, it is taking the craft, but using it in a more modern way. And people then get a bit surprised that, oh, this is hand embroidered. Oh, and it looks very much, I suppose it looks very much like things that you could get in the West. Because that's what my thing is, a little bit, in that way. But yes, we do a lot. The crochet, I just thought of little kids' toys. So we do a big range of little, of soft toys, which are wonderful for little babies as well. And the women are amazing. They are so talented. I mean, I draw stuff and then they just transform it into crochet. I find that incredible, So the ideas never stop, because you can translate anything basically into craft. You really can. You just have to think a little bit and think of a different way of how to present it, so that it also is practical. It can't be impractical, because then no one's going to use it. So it must be practical, and it's also beautiful, and it's, different. So that's what we always try to do,
Absolutely. Mrs. Siddiqa, often I find, and myself included, when people set up social enterprises or whenever they branch out into craft, one of the biggest hurdles that they face is the issue of scaling up. Demand is created by people like yourself, Maria and Nuria, where you're offering a different product. The demand is there. But when it comes to scaling up, how does one get around the obstacle of that without foreign funding or I don't know, getting a loan from a bank, which is almost impossible, especially if you're a female, because you have to be daughter of someone or wife of someone, or someone sponsors you, and sometimes that's difficult to do in our society.
It is.
So
It's very.
what are the means of scaling up?
What we have tried to scale up is what the West and our own country demanded. So we produced more and more craft, more and more of their products, and as Nuria said, very relevant, that they have to be modern, they have to suit
Yes.
the palette of the West as well as the East. So we create
Yes.
that all the time. And then the best way to scale it up is to get all their products made and show them into different exhibitions. And
Right.
we have now lately opened up, unfortunately it closed the next day because of the COVID, a shop in Coel's Gallery, Noor Jahan
Oh,
bin
right.
Quran
Yes.
Gallery in
Ji,
Karachi.
ji.
And believe me, in one day, we did a sale of 7-8 lakhs. Just one day.
Wow.
And
Wow.
people were really appreciating the fact that, oh my God, this is handmade. Yes, it is handmade. It is and a lot of our products are even hand stitched, like our kurtas, traditional kurtas, and those things are hand stitched also by women. So
Yeah.
scaling up without any outside help is not easy to do. It's very
No.
difficult. And,
Yeah.
and we don't want to get into a loan, but just to give you an example, when everything
Ji.
was closing up, the State Bank of Pakistan announced that they were going to, pay 3 months' wages through banks to
Yes.
workers so
Yes.
that
Yes,
they
I
don't
remember that.
lose jobs. So we
Yeah.
said, oh, this is a great chance. Let's at least get that funding, because it was a very attractive funding. You didn't need to start
Of
paying
course.
back till, certain time and all. So I went to the bank through which we
Ji.
have, at least we dispersed about $3 million.
Wow.
And so, yes. So I said to them, listen, we have an inventory of about 30 million. We have raw material about 40 million. So can you give
Ji.
us a loan based on that? They said, no, 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 that's not good. We need to have a land or a house.
Oh,
So I said, a
I
trust that is trying to help grassroots level women build up their own livelihoods. How can we don't own. We had a lot of money that was given to us by the World Bank and the Japanese, but I'm sorry we weren't using it on Indus heritage. We were using it on the purpose that it was given us to. So I mean, these are all
Yes.
very difficult, things. So upscaling, it has to be done very slowly, and upscaling only through their
Ji.
own craft is the best way to do it. There are no loans
Absolutely.
available. I mean, because the government doesn't take interest. And as you mentioned,
No.
I
No.
mean, BIS finds it so easy to give just 4,000 rupees. There was an election coming up a couple of years ago, and I went to Benazir, unfortunately, had died by that time. And I went to a
Ji.
small village close to Multan. So
Ji.
while we were doing the work, while our designer, we have a design studio. I think we are one of the only non-profit
Amazing.
organizations that has a design studio. And we train
Amazing.
young women from these different schools. So
Ji.
especially ICRA and these universities that have a whole department of young women and learning how, studying there and either doing
Ji.
textiles or fashion shows, fashion thing. So
Ji.
we do that, and we have a design studio. So that's why our products are very special, but
Right.
nobody wants to recognize that. So
No.
unless the government recognizes it and promotes it and gives loans for it, soft loans, which are very easy to return from the products that they make, you cannot upscale them massively. So what we do is
No.
from the same pool, we take their exhibitions abroad and then give the money back to them. So
Right.
Indus Heritage has very little profit margin in it, very, very minimum, just to keep
I can
ourselves sustained.
understand.
The rest goes to the women
Of course.
who worked so hard.
Of course.
So
Of course.
upscaling is not easy.
Maria, now as Mrs. Siddiqa said that, you know, there's a cycle, there's a cash flow cycle that's in place, right? And very little profit. Now, you had started doing exhibitions for small businesses in Lahore. I remember you did one at Gulberg Galleria. Would you say that the same applies for you as well? In terms, yeah, yes, people had to pay for their stalls, but a lot of that money ended up going back into investing in these small businesses, and there was very little profit that you know, Women's Digital League made. Would you say that that applies to the urban areas as well?
Absolutely. I'll tell you, from that exhibition we did for Masavi in October,
Masavi,
we
that's
didn't
the
make
one.
a single penny. Yes, we didn't make a single penny because we were giving out space for, say, 8,000 or 10,000 rupees for 2 days in Gulberg Galleria, which is like the heart of Lahore. And then we had expenses like digital marketing, the catering, all of that. We were left with zero. Some of it we had to spend on our own. But with me, everything is a challenge. If you tell me something can't be done, then I'll go and do it. So never tell me it can't be done. People call each other, you know, themselves change makers. I call myself a troublemaker. So they told me it can't be done, that there isn't a market, an urban market for crocheted stuff and for paintings and for handmade stationery items. And I said, well, I'm going to prove you wrong. Or there is a market, but everyone wants it for 10 rupees. Ke hamare ghar ke paas wali baji ye topi 50 rupees mein banati hai. So why are you selling it for 1,000, you know? So I said, no, there's a market. We're just not going to the right demographic. And we did that, and it was a real success. I know that people, that from the numbers I got from the people who you know, participated, we made sales of 1.7 lakh in 1.7 million within 2 days. That was 10 hours, which was just you know, beyond my expectations. So in terms of, you know, scaling up and getting grants and getting investment, I know with WDL I faced it. We were so early on. We were the first company, whether female or male or for both, that started talking about online work and this workforce that can, you know, you can make a company that's completely remote. And then so many others came into it after a few years when the money started pouring in. But every time you go and ask for the money, you're just told that, you know, you face this meritocracy. There's no meritocracy. It's everyone is mirroring each other, the same handful of companies that are owned by the same group of friends, the same social circles. They keep getting all the projects. They keep getting all the money. They keep getting all the investments and the highlight. I'm sorry, I'm very blunt. That's why maybe I've never found my space, except for the troublemaker space. But that exists. That exists. I mean, people just want to invest in people that look like them, talk like them, go to the same colleges, whose kids, you know, our kids hang out together and all of that. So it's really hard to find the money. But I see myself as a person who is pushing for the change. And if it means that someone else comes in and does it, fine by me, because my mission is not making those, you know, millions of rupees for myself. My mission is to do that social work that comes along with being a social enterprise. If someone else can take it and take it to scale, fine, but as long as it gets done.
Now it's interesting you mentioned about pricing and people saying ki ji wo flani baji 20 rupees mein bana deti hai, aap 1000 rupees mein de rahe. Now Nuria, I know that I've spoken to you about this as well, pricing, that stuff that we make and we sell constantly, there's criticism ki bahut mehenga aap log bechte ho. But what really irks me is that people focus more on the price, but they don't look at the social impact, such as gender equality that is achieved. I mean, you mentioned your cook's wife, for example, and I know that your artisans, when they're earning, it's a chance for them to really own their identity as well. Yes, there's that element of marketing as female artisans, but that in itself is such a strong statement. You're recognizing them as females and you're recognizing them as artisans. Would I be wrong in saying that?
No, not at all. I think I'm recognizing them as human beings. Like,
as human beings, yeah.
Yeah, it says as a human being, if you're telling somebody to make something and it takes them 2 days to make it, then work out how would you like to be paid, you know? And just like what Sadiqa Auntie was just was talking about with the workers, that it's like if you treat somebody like they mean nothing, they will feel like they mean nothing, right? They will never have to speak up for themselves. It's a natural thing with human beings. If you treat somebody like they have value, they will feel that they have value. If they feel they have value, they will speak up for themselves. And it has repercussions in things which are beyond stitching. It's not just about that. For example, for my women, exactly what Sadiqa Auntie said, when I opened my stitch center, because in the beginning, we just actually worked with women from home. So we would go to their houses, give them the work, you know, teach them how to make a sample of something. Generally, they would all get together in one woman's house and they'd all sit down, put the adda out, and they would work all collectively and then note how many pieces, you know, each person made. But when I opened my stitch center, there were like so many women, you know, turned up to register, and not one of them had an ID card. And I just, I said, what do you mean you don't have an ID card? I mean, this is not like the West where you don't need an ID card. I was like, this is Pakistan. You can't do anything without an ID card. And I said to them, if you don't have an ID card, basically that means you don't exist in this country. Do you understand that? You are nobody. And I said, if you work for me, I don't need their ID cards, but I said, if you want to work for me, you will all get your ID cards made. I said, because otherwise, this is the most pointless. I don't even know, what are you meant to do? I mean, you basically don't exist in Pakistan if you do not have an ID card. You can never have a bank account. You can't own anything. You can't own property, nothing. So what are you giving your girls? Some of them were not married. So what message do you give your girls like that? That they're not worth anything? And then you wonder why they marry people who treat them like rubbish? I mean, it's all in your mind, how you are treated. So, you know, that's what I told them. But I'm sorry, you all need to get your ID cards made. And so many of the women who started, who were so like very, very quiet, very shy, you know, couldn't speak up for themselves, you know, and then I used to feel bad. I felt like I was badgering them, you know, when because I believe that, you know, you say something and I don't mind somebody replying to me if they're not happy about, because I would say, okay, for this kind of work, you know, is this reasonable, this amount of money? So it was always with their consent. And, you know, if they were quiet, then I'd be like, no, speak up. If you think it's not okay, you can tell me it's not okay. And even in our work, sometimes people will say to me, oh, can you, you know, for like bespoke orders, or, you know, can you, I can only pay, you know, X amount of rupees for this. And often I have to come back and I say, well, I'm sorry, but then my women are not willing to work for that. So, you know, you can absolutely ask somebody else if they could do that order. And I think and I think if you do that, also people will start to respect handmade work, you know, and I think, and that's really important. It's one of our big strengths in this country. You know, how you're talking about the industry not being recognized. I think with that, there's also two sides of everything. You want to get recognized, but there's also going to be a negative thing of being recognized, okay? And what I feel strongly about here, and, you know, Maya, you were saying this about women and, you know, about World Bank and saying 1% of women work and stuff. For a lot of women, I also feel they also need to take, you know, ownership for what they're doing. For example, I know someone who is in my mind, they're a pretty big designer. And I was asking them once, I said, you know, how's everything and whatever. And they were like, oh God, Maria, you know, it's really bad. And, you know, like, I mean, you know, we're having to pay tax. And I was like, what?
Oh no.
Yeah, I was
oh no.
Yeah. like, how is that? I don't get that. I mean, to me, they're quite a big designer. And I was so taken aback by that. Now, you want to work? you want to earn, you make money, pay tax, register yourselves. So you will not get, you can't get, oh, we want to formalize this, but then we don't want to declare anything that we make. And I think it works both ways. So for example, even the ASAS program that Maria is mentioning, I told all my staff members that if any of you go and register yourself for the ASAS program, I'm going to fire you.
Yeah.
I said, because this is not legal, you do not have employment. You all are employed, you are being paid. This is not a free handout like that. But I know plenty of people who are employed domestically who also went and got the 12,000 or whatever money was for the ASAS program. Now, if you want to do a program like that, then we need to also look at our domestic workers. You need to bring them into the actual, you know, register of, you know, people who actually have employment. It is a form of employment, you know. So
it is,
with the rights that you're going to get, you're also going to have to get the other side of it, you know. So you are going to have to declare how much money you make and all of this stuff. That's the only way we're going to have any change. And if you want to get people, give people protection, their rights, domestic workers, all of that, it can only happen if you actually acknowledge that they actually exist, you know?
Absolutely.
So it's a big discussion, but I do think even for the, looking at the craft market and all, it has to be formalized, you know, properly. And in that way as well, take away the middleman, which Sadiqanti quite rightly says, that so many women so much of the craft is done by women, but you have a middleman who takes everything and they get paid pittance. So, I mean, where's their incentive for actually working? Cut him out.
It's a form of exploitation, isn't it? Yeah.
Sorry?
Exploitation.
I said it's a form of exploitation. The middleman sort of takes away a huge chunk and they get peanuts. And then there's no incentive to work. हम क्यों करें? हम शहरों में जाके घरों में काम करेंगे. ज़्यादा पैसे मिलेंगे.
Exactly. Why waste your time doing things?
You know what? I forgot the story I was telling. So I went to this village and we were teaching them how to do the embroideries right. And then at the end of this, I have a very political side to me, which is maybe not always good.
That's all right.
So I said, whom are you going to vote for?
Yes.
And the answer was for Benazir. So I said, but she's dead. And why would you vote for somebody who's dead? And they said, nahi baji, aap dekhe na wo hame 2 ya 3 mahine baad Benazir hame 4,000 rupeya bhejti hai. I was so shocked that just because this carried her name, it was such political manipulation that I was amazed, and I kept convincing them, no, Benazir is gone. She's not sending you any money. This is the government of Pakistan that's sending you money. But they couldn't. But on the other hand, Maria touched a nerve that I'm very, very, sort of sad about. Just like she said, there's only a group of people who get DFID, USAID, or whatever. We were very lucky because our women, we were enthusiastic as a trust, and the people that we brought in and were working, the World Bank had observed how well we had trained them and how much we were giving back to them, and how much of, by calling them artisans, we had given them dignity. So it was a very rare happening. But Maria is very right. It is only given to a clique of small people who, benefit from it, and people that are really working on the ground, really trying to make a difference in these women's lives, struggling to, bring them up, don't usually get recognized.
Very true.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. We're heading towards the end, sadly. So, Maria, what is the future of Musawi and the future of Women's Digital League post-pandemic, inshallah, whenever this does end?
I take every day as it comes. I have no idea what the future holds. WDL started as just me trying to find something to keep me busy while I was expecting my baby and just trying to avoid postpartum depression. It became a company and was recognized quite a bit. I didn't mean it to happen. Then the World Bank grant happened, and then, you know, all the other things. And then it went from that to advocating for greater representation for women, for greater recognition for them, for getting advocating against manuals, to, you know, now advocating for, you know, a seat for women at the policy tables. So I don't know what the future holds. I just know that every time we have raised a voice collectively as women, as people, not just women, but men also, who have been a part of it, we have made a difference, and people have sat up and taken notice. So I know that this challenge will also be overcome, and then we'll see where life takes us.
Absolutely. Nuria, where do you see labor and love? I know that you've started work again, which is wonderful. But after COVID, how would you see labor and love?
Yeah, we have started work again. It's not so easy, I'll have to admit.
I know.
It isn't so easy, you know, managing it. And for a while, we were closed for a long time because I actually couldn't, I didn't really trust the women actually to come to the Stitch Center and maintain distance and do, you know, the whole social distance, all of that. So we have started, but it's very small at the moment and just starting up again. But I mean, you know, thank God for the, for the internet and for social media and for, you know, I mean, we don't have a store, you know, a shop like, you know, Siddiqa Auntie was also saying it's very difficult for you to upscale, to have a shop, the rates, the, you know, all of that becomes very expensive. So we, mashallah, just plodding along, you know, with our sales through Instagram and through Facebook. I do think that the pandemic and all of this, it is going to, I mean, it definitely is going to change the way we are, you know, looking at things. I mean, in one way, we have been busy with doing face masks. So, you know, and kids face masks and adult face masks. So we have, you know, you can use craft. Like I said, you can use it for anything and everything. But I hope that inshallah things do calm down a bit for us, because so much of our work is, you know, sitting with the women and, you know, all of them being together and collectively working. So for those kind of businesses, it is a bit tricky right now. But
inshallah, it will pick up. Inshallah. Have faith. Mrs. Siddiqa, where does the Indus Heritage Trust go post-pandemic?
I'm very optimistic. By nature, I'm
wonderful.
Optimistic. So
excellent.
I think this period we'll overcome, as Nuria said, and as Maria said also. Thank God for the internet. So we are doing some online sales very well. But
wonderful.
It is hard. For entrepreneurs, it is very hard because it's going to take time for us to come back. And what SARS or BISP don't realize is that you can give them handouts for 11,000, 12,000. Most of them go to wrong people.
It's not sustainable.
They need to revive their skills and work and earn things themselves and be proud of, okay, even during such a difficult time, we were able to be helped and we were able to sustain. But Indus Heritage, inshallah, will do well as soon as it opens up more. And we are still trying to find our women, we're still trying to find them work because they are very distressed. And we get calls all the time. Baji, aapne kaam nahi is dafa bheja. Baji, aapne kaam. So we are now starting to send work to them because I feel we can't leave them. We have to support them in some way. So we have started again very slowly, and as Nuria very correctly said, because we also have them in groups most of the time, because when they are given something at home, they will dirty it and do a lot of different. So we are talking about rural women. This is not urban women. So, but we have started to give them work again so that they don't, just fall on the roadside. So we are working with them again very slowly, but yes, we are. And we absorb a lot of their expenses ourselves. So not that we are a super rich organization, but we want to help them. And that's what our job is, to make them
Of
feel
course.
special and to make them feel, no, the world still needs your work. The world still
Of course.
needs you. So that's how it is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Ladies, thank you so very much for joining in today. Each one of you, your input has been so valuable. This is a strange time indeed. None of us really know where we're heading. And even though each one of us work for economic empowerment and gender equality in some form or the other, there's no denying that right now everyone's in the same boat. So let's see. Hopefully things will improve and we'll find ourselves better off. That's the hope that one clings on to. Thank you so much for taking the time out to do this. I am really, really grateful to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you, Meher. Thank you for getting us together. Thank you very
Not
much.
at all.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.